All right.
Hi.
Hello.
So, yeah, hi everyone. Welcome. And to all friends, it's just been an amazing ride because our first podcast was amazing. And we still don't know what we're doing. So, thank you for following and watching. And this is, after all, How Free Do You Want to Be? I'm Maria Hanford. And
Lexy Nazaire, nice to have you all here with us. And we have Dr. Cohen here with us, Dr. Barry Cohen. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dr. Cohen?
Sure. We also have Ricky, by the way.
who's Ricky?
Oh, Ricky.
Oh,
Here's Ricky.
Ricky.
So anyway, so I started. I guess the story starts when I was in college at Stony Brook. I had always wanted to be an astronomer, so I wound up majoring in physics at Stony Brook. And in my junior year, a professor of physics had started TM recently in transcendental meditation and was talking about how much it, felt great for him, and he had been feeling a little depressed or something, and it was really lifting him up. And so he got people to come from the TM organization to get us started with meditating if we wanted to, and a lot of us did, and so I started meditating regularly twice a day, and that was well over 50 years ago, and I haven't stopped. But although I finished the major in physics, I started taking a bunch of psychology in my senior year, and because I was getting very interested in how the brain works and thinks. For one thing, I was not very good with the super advanced math that was coming my way at the end of my physics career. I was like getting a little crazy, and so I wound up switching to psychology for a master's degree, and beginning to study, how meditation works. But then for a career, I wound up as the director of the master's program of psychology at NYU, doing a lot of administration and stuff. But towards the end, I was able to get some research in with an fMRI study of inner speech, which is closely related to mantra meditation. And now that I'm retired, I'm spending a lot of time with collaborations on research, including with the Mindful Education Lab at the Steinhardt School at New York University. And I'm actually collaborating with people at Michigan State University. We're going to be doing an EEG study with different types of meditation. So I'm still immersed and having a very active retirement. Oh, did I mention that I got a PhD in experimental psychology along the way? That was probably relevant. And I've written a few stats textbooks, and I taught stats and research methods.
The stats textbook. The stats textbook.
Well, it is pretty good. It's been translated into Chinese. It's doing well in China anyway. I'm kind of a hit there. They like the textbook. So
Amazing.
that's me.
Thanks for coming here and giving us some of your time. I appreciate you. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Well, and I appreciate you back.
Dr. Cohen, what is freedom to you? Like, what comes to mind? How do you define freedom?
Yes, well, the theme of this talk is going to be freedom from mental pain. The fact is, you can't be free if you're constantly trying to avoid feeling bad, having mental pain, because then you'll be driven by that, and you'll be addicted to anything that relieves your pain. And so freedom really is freedom from mental pain, and that's really what Buddhism is about. The Enlightenment is that freedom from suffering, and that's the ultimate freedom.
So, Dr. Cohen, when you say freedom from mental pain. So how do we do that? I mean, well, let me back up a little bit. What do we do when we're experiencing mental pain in our lives? So there's like pain limiting us from being free, right? So what are we doing? How are we living that demonstrates that we're actually limiting our freedom?
Well, of course, pain is actually a rejection of something we're experiencing. It's the body, sort of the mind, the brain rejecting in a rejection mode. So the answer is this kind of total acceptance. You see, it doesn't become mental pain. Whatever's coming at you, something in life or something from your body that isn't good, doesn't seem good for you. It doesn't automatically cause mental pain without you cooperating with that. Of course, it is quite automatic, this mental pain reaction, but we can learn to make it less automatic, to put in a little pause, a little gap, which we refer to as mindfulness. And so it's all about, and it takes training and learning because you're going against kind of a natural survival tendency. Yeah, it's sort of built in that anytime there's anything that threatens us or seems to be threatening us, we go into an emergency mode. And we've gotten really out of hand with that. It's become very pervasive. And it's basically it's what I call the common neurosis. We are all, somewhat neurotic. You don't have to have a clinical diagnosis to be neurotic. And neurotic basically means that you are overreacting with mental pain to, relatively innocuous things that happen in your life and in your.
So what I hear is that, okay, we're suffering from this mental pain, but how are we functioning, right? So what do people tend to, how do people tend to operate if they're having this pain in their life and they're not implementing mindfulness? So they're not implementing healthy coping mechanisms. So what kinds of things are keeping them going so they can exist with this level of pain?
Yeah, it's called distraction. So, for instance, we understand when somebody has obsessive compulsive disorder and they have to do certain things or whatever. On the other hand, if someone is addicted to work, if someone is a workaholic, as we say, and they're putting in many, many hours and they're kind of missing entertainment because of it, but they're, super involved in their work life, it doesn't appear to be pathological at all. However, if you had stopped them from that, if somehow they get fired or somehow they can't do that, then you find out how addicted they were to it and how much they were avoiding mental pain. But you can avoid mental pain with very active distractions. Now, sometimes, and we will get into this, sometimes a distraction can be worse than the original, pain. It could actually, backfire on you. But
like what?
well, like rumination, like trying to solve unsolvable problems from your past. We often have the urge that we'd like to have a time machine to go back and correct some things. Oh boy, could we change all kinds of stuff, if we could go back. Well, we often do that mentally. And, it's useless, but we can't help it very often because we're trying to get a handle. You see, we're basically problem solvers. The brain has really evolved as huge frontal lobes, and it's there to solve problems. And if we're feeling bad, that's a problem to be solved. And we start working on it. We're doing whatever we can. Often it's irrelevant. It doesn't, address the actual problem, which might be some physiological disorder or something, going wrong in your body. But we do whatever it seems like might work. and it might just make things a bit worse, but at least we're distracting ourselves. And with, so rumination is a particularly bad one, and that's associated with depression and anxiety disorders. But we all do it to some extent. There's a very artificial distinction between clinical neurosis and everyday neurosis. It's just a question of how well are you coping. I mean, if you, like I said, if you're addicted to work, you're considered very functioning very well. You're doing fine. If you're addicted to gambling, not so much. There's not really a big difference, except for how well it works out. I mean, but mentally, it's a similar thing.
But if you're addicted to work, but then you have all these interpersonal issues, then it might be affecting your quality of life.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I guess my question to you is worry, rumination, those are all things that we do. But at what point is it pain, in your opinion?
Well, it's very subjective. But pain is like, you want to get rid of it. Any feeling that you want it badly to end, and you want to get rid of it, that's mental pain. If you're not dying to get rid of it, it's not pain. I think that's fairly, simple.
May I interject here for a minute?
You're not really interjecting. This is a conversation.
You're right. I was really just observing. I'm fascinated because I feel like I forgot my train of thought for a second. Hold on. How was I going to word this? Okay, yes. So you say that if you have pain, it's pain if you want to get rid of it. But sometimes there's the trade-off of pain, and people will accept pain anyway. So,
or maybe they don't even see it as pain. Like they themselves don't see what they're experiencing as pain, but other people see that it might be harmful to them. Well, I don't know if I took that in a different direction, Maria.
Well, you're creeping up to the lesser of two evils topic.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting topic because, it has to do with people cutting themselves, for instance, or doing things that seem very self-destructive. And it's like, well, wait a minute, they're inflicting pain on themselves? That seems totally counterintuitive. But what you cannot observe is the degree of mental pain that's going on inside them. And so whatever they're doing that seems self-destructive might be a distraction from a pain that's worse. And so we tend to pick the lesser pain over the greater pain. And so a simple physical, cutting yourself, compared to the horrible mental pain of depression, that's like, in fact, they've interviewed people who had failed suicide attempts and stuff and asked them about it. And like, for instance, one guy said, I had the bone cancer, and it was, it's very painful, but nothing compared to the pain of depression that led to my suicide attempt. Someone else said, this is in a journal article, they had interviewed a bunch of suicide survivors, and he said he woke up in the middle of the night and he didn't realize there had been some change in the furniture, and he tripped over a cocktail table, whatever, broke both legs. And he said, that was painful, but again, nothing compared to the mental pain of depression. So that's, so you can, he didn't deliberately break his legs, but in fact, you could imagine someone in that situation, possibly, cutting themselves just to distract, as a distraction. It's strange. Yes.
Yeah. And also certain like endorphin, I'm not saying cut good, but endorphins are released as well. And it's something tangible that you can see. Like this is a cut arm, this is pain. But the mental pain, you can't see it. It's like, it's so powerful, and it can really take over someone's life.
In fact, that's another important point about how this whole pain reduction works, because in terms of distraction, there's like two pathways. You can have direct downward control from neural control, having reducing activity in the brainstem that's involved with transmitting pain. And then there's endorphins. And a lot of these, things that we do, like the runner's high, comes from endorphins. And in fact, the body, if the body figures out that this pain is necessary, that this is a good pain, like the pain of exercise, then it sends out the endorphins to relieve the pain so that you can go through this, and because it knows it's good for you. Which is weird when I say it knows it's, because a lot of this works automatically. The thing is, there's a metaphor where, we're just sitting on top of an elephant and guiding it to some extent, but the elephant really is has all the power, and we're just hoping to guide it as much as we can. So a lot of the brain works very automatically, and it has to, for survival purposes. If you're in the woods and you hear a tiger growling or something, this is no time to start philosophically thinking about, things, or going through all possible, solutions to the problem. You have to act quickly, or you're dead. And so the people who were thinking about it a lot didn't have children, and and those genes went away. And the people who acted very automatically that's us. But we can, train ourselves mentally. Of course, we'll be talking about meditation exercises and stuff, and we can train ourselves to not always be reacting so automatically and spontaneously.
So let's talk about that for a minute. You say we can train ourselves, meditation, mindfulness exercises. So is that something that we do? I mean, I know the answer, I mean, personally, but
it's rhetorical.
Yeah. So let me ask it this way. If someone came to you and they said, I want to gain freedom from this mental pain, and I don't want to take the lesser of two evils. Like, I don't want to trade off one pain for another pain. I just want to be free from pain. What do I do?
Well, of course, I'm a very practical person about these things. If someone is in severe enough pain, they might need medication of some kind, as a more immediate relief. I'm not this kind of purist that it has to be done, with no pharmaceuticals at all, and all that.
I'm a fan of pharmaceuticals. Don't worry.
There's a lot of buzz now about buprenorphine. Buprenorphine is a very mild opioid that tends not to lead to addiction, but has good pain relieving effects. So that can be, the way to go for some people. There's transmagnetic stimulation, where they, can kind of stimulate part of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex to, create some downward down regulation of bad feelings and stuff. So there's some, kind of direct ways to try to relieve in a very serious situation, someone who's coming with, really intense pain. But meditation, is for everybody, but it works. The irony of meditation is it works faster and easier for people who don't need it as much. I mean, that's the irony of life here. But so I would, certainly be getting someone involved in some sort of meditation or mindfulness training, as long as the pain isn't so severe that they can't sit still for a minute or whatever.
I can so relate to that. I can so relate to that because I've shared publicly my bout with depression, and I needed something to get me over the hump. I could not meditate. I couldn't do anything. First I experienced that pain that we are talking about, and then I just turned into like a chair. I had no feeling, but I could not concentrate. I couldn't put a paragraph together on a piece of paper, or maybe not even a sentence. So I needed the pharmaceuticals to get me over the hump. And then as I got better, and while I was getting better, I was trying to implement the mindfulness practices, and meditating, and started my yoga journey. And yeah, so I can totally relate to that. I don't personally, I don't think that it should be one or the other. It's a case by case basis. And for me, it was both.
Yeah, I mean, in the more serious cases, there are physiological changes that are not easy to reverse mentally. I mean, maybe if you went off to a cave together with a guru and sat in meditation, and had all that support, maybe you could do it without pharmaceuticals. But within, our Western civilization and having to do practical things in your life, you don't have that luxury. And so, um, so pharmaceuticals are sometimes needed. Or, I mean, there's some stuff with psychedelics that have been helpful. And in addition to the magnetic stimulation, there's sort of direct current stimulation across the brain that has helped people. That's not shock therapy. It's very mild. So, they're working on different ways to reverse some of the changes that occur when you have prolonged depression or prolonged anxiety. Because, your physiology adapts to that, and it changes the number of dendrites and the number of receptors for different neurotransmitters, and there are changes that are not quickly and easily reversed. Real concrete changes in the brain that can be seen.
I guess it's about how much the person wants to be involved in their own recovery from this, right?
Yeah, it's that's part of the depression issue, of course, is not believing that anything's going to help, because it feels like it's not going to. You can't imagine being happy when you're depressed. You can't imagine anything good,
You know what? I think I disagree with that, because
okay.
yeah, because I don't know if I imagined being happy, but I didn't want to give up on my trying to get better, because I knew it was possible. And maybe I'm another animal because I have the exposure to psychology. I have the reading of the textbooks that have shown me, and all the experiments in the literature. So I have that in the back of my head saying, you know what? I know what this disease is. People have recovered. I just have to keep going. I have to keep going. I have to keep going, and I had family members say to me, what's wrong with your doctor? This has been going, we have to find another doctor. I said, no, this is the process. I trust him. I'm staying. And it all worked out, but
Well, that's the mindset that you had, Maria, to get out of that state that you were in. But some people, they really can't imagine life,
I could see that.
like, which leads people sometimes to, take their life.
Yes. And when I was depressed, I would say things that would freak my family out, because I'd just be sitting there and say, I really get it. And they're like, get what? I'm like, the people who off themselves. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, I don't want to, but I get it, because the pain is so profound. And you're right. If you didn't have the mindset that I had and the training that I had to know that this is a disease and I got to hang in there. I've seen it. I've seen people recover. I got to hang in there. It's painful. It sucks, but I have kids. I got to hang in there. You know, if I didn't have that exposure and that the type of life that I was living, you know, who knows what would happen. But in that state, I totally understood. You know, people look at like Robin Williams and Kate Spade, you know, selling her company for like billions of dollars, beautiful daughter, beautiful life. Robin Williams, such a success, made so many people happy, gorgeous home in Marin County, you know, quiet, beautiful life.
Yeah, but that's like all of the, like for him, it wasn't a beautiful life. He was going
Right, right. I'm saying what people see, like people see that. And
yeah.
then like my daughter, one time she came over and I was depressed and she's like, Mom, it's okay. Get off the couch. You have this beautiful home and take a look off the terrace into the city. Look, it's such a beautiful day. And I was
Yeah.
like, uh,
Yeah.
I totally got it.
Well, actually,
How people jump off that terrace.
I read that Robin Williams actually had some sort of dementia, beginning of some dementia or brain disease or some neurophysiological problem in addition. But that's not necessary to be in the state he was in.
I think he's depressed his whole life, like battling that, you know, his whole life. But we're kind of going into the weeds. Sorry.
I also think that, like, how do I phrase this? When you have a lot of things, I think it's easier to be depressed and unhappy in life.
Yes.
Because you think that when I get these things, my life will be amazing. I'll have a fulfilled life. But then you realize that those things only mean like a fraction of what a fulfilled life is. And so, yeah, then there's that emptiness that you feel that is inescapable.
Yes.
Well, the ultimate example is the person who achieves like fame and fortune early in life. They got this goal that they thought would do it. And you know how many of them turn to drugs. It's extremely common because they've exhausted the other types of distractions that they thought would do it. And you don't know that being rich won't make you happy until you become rich. Now, it's still better to be rich than to be poor, but because if you're rich and depressed, you can afford, you know, better medical attention or whatever. But the bottom line is, we've seen it over and over again, and it always seems paradoxical. Wow, this person now has everything. Why are they going to drugs? Why are they so depressed? It's because they were already neurotic to begin with, of course, like almost everybody. But they were, you know, had something to strive for. They had like, I'm gonna make it someday and stuff. And then when they make it and it doesn't take the pain away, it's like, uh-oh, that was my go-to. That's what I was hoping would do the trick. And now I know it's not going to. So that feels really bad.
I did that so many times. I would get that other certification, you know, in law, not in this profession, and not in my life now, but go train in this, go train in that, go to Harvard, go to Columbia, go get this, go get that, you know, the name, the certificate, whatever it was, work with this one, do this, do. And then when it was done, I was like, wow, more depressed. And the whole shopping thing, I was a shopaholic. I would buy nice things too. And while I was in the store and I was buying it and everyone was like, oh yes, Maria, come in, acting like I was their best friend because I had like a nice shiny credit card, right? And they knew I wasn't afraid to spend it, to use it.
Oh, you get lots of nice attention that way.
Oh my God. And then I come home with this thing and this pen is one of them, by the way. I come home with this thing and I'm like, put in the closet. I have a closet full of stuff that when I open it, I get sick. My daughter's supposed to come over and go through it and hook me up with the real, but I don't even go in. I don't even go in that closet, but that's again, going in the weeds, but yeah, I totally can relate to that. What was that?
Consignment, for those who aren't familiar the real.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Doctor.
And that's only because of my wife that I would have any idea about that. She was collecting shoes at one point, Manolo Blahniks and Prada or whatever, Armani or whatever it was, just like, and now she's selling some. She's trying to sell some of them.
What size are they? No, I'm kidding.
5.5 for the most.
Oh, forget it.
I know.
I'm an Amazon.
Yeah, it does make it harder to,
5.5 is hard too.
Huh?
That's a tiny foot.
Yeah, I know. Right, exactly. It's but fortunately, my nephew's wife is the same size. So my wife just gave her a pair of relatively brand new shoes.
She's lucky girl, lucky girl.
Yes.
So,
I
go ahead,
wanted to
Lex.
go back to
Hmm?
meditation. And Maria, you brought up gratitude and how your daughter was like, you have all of this, kind of like bringing in gratitude. And I think gratitude is like the best medicine for depression, feeling low, feeling down. So I want to talk about meditation more and how people can start meditating and how to keep meditating, because it can be very difficult to start that practice and keep it. And then also acceptance and how acceptance kind of plays into all of this.
Well, yeah, when we're talking about people in a good deal of pain and not being able to sit still, they could start with a movement-oriented meditation. So for some people that can work better. I mean, there's Tai Chi and Qigong, and of course yoga has a meditative component to it. A lot of people get started with meditation by being in a yoga class, and at the end they're lying in the on their back in the corpse pose and
Shavasana.
and it's time to get in some meditation while they're there. You can sort of feel how good your body is because you stretched out every part of it, and it's so you're already doing sort of like a body scan, which is another way that you can start. And there's progressive muscle relaxation, where you learn to tense and relax muscles, to relax the muscles as much as possible. There are breathing exercises. You can regulate your breathing at a certain pace, which can really help. So these are some physical things that you can do if you can't sit still at all, to get going in that direction. And then of course now it's all on online. There's all kinds of free.
No. It's an Exicor Wellness. It's an Exicor. What are you doing, Dr.
Well,
C?
you do want the personal touch. There's no substitute for being in what they call a sangha, which is the Buddhist term.
Correct. And we do a lot of free stuff too. So
Yes.
we do a lot of free stuff. So it's all good. But yeah. But Lexy, what you said about acceptance, like that to me is, acceptance is the key for me. Acceptance is the key to my happiness, because whenever I'm like not feeling happy or I'm disturbed, it's because there's something out in the outside world that isn't the way I want it to be. Right. And I have to let go of that and know that I don't control any of that stuff and focus on me and what I can control, which is the things, what I do, how I think, what I do for myself. So acceptance, it's sort of an elusive concept, right? So Dr. C, like, help us.
Well, Kristen Neff could be the one who helps you with self-compassion. So that's an important component of this meditative tradition here now, is to turn it to yourself. I mean, there's loving kindness meditation, which is very helpful to people, where you extend good wishes to everyone, including people you don't like and stuff. You start with people you do like, and then you learn to extend this loving kindness to people that you don't like. But you also need to extend it to yourself. And for some people, it's easier to extend loving kindness to other people than yourself. We're so tough on ourselves, so critical. When I tell people who are beating themselves up for something, I'll just say, the thing that you did, pretend that your friend did that. And what would you say to them? Would you beat them up about it? No, you'd be very supportive. but yourself, you beat up yourself. So self-compassion is one place to start. And then loving kindness meditation. But, then there's also body scan is a good way to start getting into meditation, because body scan is about acceptance. It's about accepting the way your body feels. That's, one, definite source of mental pain is this kind of diffuse bodily discomfort that we don't even identify it as any specific pain necessarily. But it's just a general discomfort. We just don't feel comfortable in ourselves and our body. And through a body scan, you can begin to feel where it feels worst, where's the most tension or where's the most discomfort, which you may not notice because you're so busy distracting yourself otherwise. And now you start noticing it. And when you notice it and accept it, that's when you can, that's when it starts easing up. Like a good example of acceptance is if you were working out the previous day, getting some good exercise in, weights and weight bearing exercise and all that, and you're very proud of yourself. And the next day you wake up with some aches and pains. You accept those. It's like, in fact, they're almost a badge of honor. It's like, it sort of feels good. It's like, oh, because it's a reminder that you accomplished your goal and you did what you. Now, let's say you haven't exercised for weeks and you wake up with those aches, same aches and pains, not the same. It's like, am I got a flu? Something's wrong with me. It's like, maybe I should go to a doctor. And now you're rejecting those feelings. You don't like them. They're threatening. And so notice the big difference. Of course, it's easier to accept something when you know its cause, you know where it's from, and you know that it has a good cause, that it's, a good thing and it's going to be fine. But the challenge, of course, is to accept unconditionally, just accept it all. Because the fact is, our attitude is if you feel some pain, it's like, well, I don't want to feel this. I got to get rid of it. I mean, as though feeling the pain itself is damaging, will harm you. It's like, if I feel the pain, that's going to damage me and hurt me. And that's not true. And I guess at this point, I just have to distinguish for a minute between feelings, let's say bodily feelings that cause pain versus the pain, because it can be dissociated. I've had the experience myself at the dentist once with nitrous oxide, what's so-called laughing gas. Yes. And so I was getting the Novocaine injection, and I had firsthand experience of this dissociation. It was fascinating because I could feel the needle going into my flesh, but it wasn't really my flesh. It was like, it was something that was happening, but it didn't really feel like, I didn't take it personally. It's like, it's not the same as like, I'm getting, assaulted here. It's at a distance.
You were high, Dr. C.
Yes. And that's what makes it, that's what makes it easy but that dissociates from the pain. You could see, if you could develop that, yogis, very experienced yogis don't need nitrous oxide to get into that kind of state where they don't identify with the pain.
I'm sorry, I just interrupted you.
Yes.
But I have to talk about the dissociation from the pain, because that's what drives people to abuse drugs and alcohol. And that's why you see a lot of these mentally ill people on the street getting high and drinking, because I'm not going to lie, like a good martini, would make that pain go away, that stress go down, and that's why a lot of attorneys go to lunch and they order martinis at lunch. I remember being in court in the morning and stress, and then go to lunch break and drink. And the alcohol tolerance is so high because you're doing that all the time, right? And having martinis at lunch. I mean, now I would die if I did that. But so that was like the go-to, because people don't have the coping skills. They don't have the acceptance. They don't have, I think the acceptance is the main thing, because if I would have said something like, Maria, this is part of being a lawyer. It's a lot. There's a lot of emotions flying here. It's okay that you're feeling this way. It's normal. Take a deep breath, do a little mindful, I would have been okay. I didn't have that. I didn't have that self-talk. I just wanted to get rid of it. Quick,
Yeah.
quick,
Instant.
and that, I think that's what we're talking about. Like we talk about the tooth, right? So I'm pretty good at dissociating. I'm really good at pain, from the pain without drugs. And I've been able to do this for a long time, even well before I was getting into this, because I got into wellness and meditating, whatever. I can do it so much better now. So I was at the dentist the other day and I had a procedure done where they took some tubes and stuck them in my gum, behind my tooth, and jammed the tube between my gum and my tooth into the socket and released some powder into my socket, antibiotic powder.
Oh.
And she kept saying, "Are you in pain? Are you in pain? Are you in pain?" And I was meditating and I was disassociating myself from it. And I was focusing on the meditation, not the pain. So I separated that. And she wanted to give me like a little something if I needed it. And I didn't need it. So I think it's really important that people find a way and we bring the message to them that they can learn this and to give it time. And I always say, if I can do it, because I was a chocolate mess. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. And I say that wholeheartedly.
Well, and also people who are hypnotically susceptible, hypnosis works terrific for them to
Also
reduce,
for
to
wellness.
dissociate.
We have hypnosis at Exicor too. So
Yeah,
just
and not everyone is susceptible to it. It has something to do with your brain structure or whatever, that you're able to dissociate more easily than someone else. But for those who can dissociate under hypnosis, it's very effective. And so it's always worth a try to see if you're one who falls in that category. But also, I was going to say, if you have any doubt about just how prevalent mental pain is in our society, look at how prevalent alcohol is to relieve the pain. I mean, if you didn't have mental pain, there would be nothing for alcohol to relieve. It's, you can tell that everyone for whom alcohol works, it's not work for everybody, including me. I have that gene, and they've studied this gene that metabolizes alcohol quickly into some sort of aldehyde, which doesn't feel good. And it's very common among Ashkenazi Jews and Asians and Native Americans, that gene. So, but for those who it works for, that's where you can easily get addicted to it, because it really is a very good pain reliever for people who don't metabolize it right away. So, and so that prevalence of marijuana smoking and alcohol and stuff just shows you everyone's self-medicating. Everyone's taking a pain reliever at one point or another, because it's so prevalent. It's part of a flaw in the human stress system. Actually, not just humans, but mammals. There's something called experimental neurosis, where they can make an animal essentially chronically neurotic by giving them unpredictable, uncontrollable shocks or some other kind of thing, where you put them under stress for a prolonged time. And if they're under stress for long enough, the stress destroys the mechanism that brings down the stress. So you've actually, because there's a negative feedback loop normally that kind of brings us down from stress after an emergency or whatever. But ironically, and this is the flaw in the mammalian stress system, is that prolonged cortisol and stuff in your system will damage the control mechanisms that bring you back to normal. And so you wind up chronically high up in the stress category. That's why our population is the way it is now. And now we see before social media, part of the addiction was mostly inside your head. You had your own inner speech and your own rumination and your own imaginations and stuff. But now we've exported it to our phones and our screens and stuff. So now you can see the addiction. You see people with the phone. Of course they're addicted to their phones because it's a pain reliever. Again, it's a pain reliever. It's a great distraction. And of course, it's the most common addiction now, and it's nothing new. It's like, alcohol, rumination, marijuana, cell phones, social, media. It's all doing the same thing, essentially.
Wow. I'm just thinking, I mean, we've talked about so many things here, and thank you for staying longer than you said that you were going to. We kept you long.
No, this is okay.
What would be, okay, so if you could tell, let me go back to the title. What we're going to title this episode is
freedom from mental pain.
The freedom from the pain limitation, which is you defined as mental pain. So if there was a takeaway that you want to give someone, let's say, how would you phrase it? What would you tell them?
Oh, by the way, I have to clarify that when I talk about mental pain, it's all mental pain. Physical pain produces mental pain, but so does social rejection. So does various things in life that are disappointing or frustrating. So mental pain could have a physical cause, or could have a psychological cause. So but remember, the physical pain doesn't have to always cause mental pain. I
was just going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it normally does, and it makes sense that it would because survival value. But there are techniques, and we're, like you talked about, dissociation and stuff that we can do to manage the pain. But acceptance is the ultimate goal here.
So, question for you. So I co-facilitate acceptance commitment therapy, group therapy. And there was one client who really didn't like the idea of acceptance because he saw it as resignation. So what would you say about that? Like, how would you kind of reframe that into kind of taking that power back with acceptance?
Yeah, you have to get a bit philosophical about it. I mean, one thing very concrete is that people who are concerned about social justice, they're concerned that if they meditate, they'll lose their edge, they'll lose their pain, they'll accept they'll accept social injustice.
Yeah,
they'll be accepting of it, and that's not what this is about. Because in fact, the goal of meditation and all that is to give yourself the clarity and the energy and the comfort to then work against whatever you want to work against. You want to work against social injustice, you'll have the better tools to do it, instead of being overcome by your anger and stuff and wind up not thinking as clearly as possible. You'll actually could be very have good strategies and be more effective in your goal of getting rid of social injustice, for instance. So in terms of you just have to, I think, frame acceptance as a mechanical exercise more than a philosophy, so to speak. It's not just that I'm just going to accept my lot in life, or accept that I'm in a lower class, and accept that I'm always going to be downtrodden or whatever. This is so you have to immerse them more in the philosophy sort of behind it, which is that this is a pathway, it's a technique towards being more in the world and being more powerful in the world. Because otherwise it could sound like, I'm just going to take it,
Yeah.
So, you have to make it clear that it's an exercise, and that it's not a way of life necessarily. I mean, it's more of a mental exercise, but not a way of life in the sense that you just don't go around accepting everything that someone does to you. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
not total
Yeah,
pacifism or,
I look at acceptance as you're accepting things that are not in your control. It is what it is, but that gives you the freedom and the power to make better choices on how you're going to move forward, and gives you clarity on what needs to be done. Because if you keep fighting against it, the pain is in the resistance.
Yeah.
So if you keep fighting against it and you're angry and you're upset, and there's really nothing you can do to change it at that moment, maybe in the future, whatever. But at this moment, this is what it is at this moment, because this is all we have is this moment, right? The present, this moment, that's it. So we accept how it is this moment. So that acceptance actually distracts us from the other distracting behavior that is harmful, right? The harmful distractions, the being upset, the yelling, the screaming, the maybe getting arrested for fighting or drinking or, whatever. So now this meditative practice will say, okay, well, this is the situation we're in. What's next? Right?
well, it reminds me of the well-known, very famous AA slogan of "Grant me the serenity
Yeah.
to change the things I can, to accept the things I cannot change,
The serenity prayer.
and the wisdom, yes, and the wisdom to know the difference." And yes, so that can also be invoked here. The things you cannot change, it says we have to be careful about this. This always reminds me of the issue of the fragility of young people these days, which is that instead of working on themselves, they want only to work on society.
Right.
If I change everything in society, I'll be fine. Of course, you won't be. You're still going to be neurotic.
Yeah.
But it's easy to believe that it's all coming from the outside. And the
Yeah.
reason you feel so miserable is because everyone else is so horrible to you and all that. And and to explain to someone that, well, you're overreacting or something, that's not going to be taken well. So you have to pitch it in a different kind of way as basically a tool to become more powerful and to become more grounded and centered and able to accomplish your goals better, have more energy, more clarity, all of that.
Yeah.
I want to read something because you just reminded me of something. Acceptance is the answer. AA Big Book.
Oh, all right. So it is from Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been very effective for lots of people. And actually, I have let me see if I have this book handy. 1 second, because I have to go look at this thing here. I
love what you said, Maria.
Talk about
Yeah, I mean,
you have the outer world and you have the inner world. And the
I
inner
always looked at it. Yeah.
is you can really, you have power over that. You can choose to change what's going on in the inner world. But the outer world, a lot of the times we don't have control over that. And so people like worry, ruminate, do all these things to try to control the outer world.
Yes. And I used to drive with someone to work that was trying to control everybody on the road.
Road rage.
And
How about road
yes,
rage?
it was bad. It was bad. And I stopped driving with them. But yeah, so I would say, "What are you doing?" And he would say, I'm just this idiot. I have to teach him that's not right to do." Like, he would just get all in. I'm like, "Dude, you're never going to see the guy again. Like, just let him go, you know?" And
Gotta
it was
teach him.
about, yeah, he's got to teach him. So it was about their needing to control how people drive on the road.
Yeah.
You're never going to wrap your head around that. So you're never going to be able to do that. So what is this person signing up for? Aggravation, stress, misery. But if they would just accept that they can't control every idiot on the road, so they need to focus on what they're doing, pay attention, not be aggressive, stay safe. If that's what they're in charge of, that's what they can control, right? So that brings the stress level down, because now, guess what? You're not in charge of the world. Thank God, right? You're not in charge of the world.
So
And
speaking of that,
go ahead.
I found this book advertised.
Black People
Ooh.
Breathe?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
And the point of this book is that, you know, it is okay to work on yourself. And it's, you know, it says a mindfulness guide to racial healing.
Mm.
And it's basically saying, okay, you're going to have microaggressions aimed at you. You're going to feel bad about, but you don't have to. There's things you can do, including breathing exercises and meditation. And so, you know, the author is trying to solve that problem of thinking that, you know, meditation is giving up, or, you know, not fighting the good fight or whatever, that you're just getting complacent or something like that.
Can you show
That's
that
a
book
challenge.
again?
Yeah, sure.
Let's give them a plug, because Black People Breathe, a mindfulness guide to racial healing. And who's the author?
Z. Clark.
Z.
Z.
Clark.
Clark.
Is that a picture of her? That's a beautiful picture. Is that her, or just a Black person breathing?
Well, there's a different picture on the back cover. So,
oh, okay. And that's a Black woman loving on herself. All right.
yes,
Both
exactly.
beautiful pictures.
Yes.
I'd love to get my hands on that. That looks like a textbook, though.
Well, it's not really. It's got lots of exercises in it.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I just opened to any page.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's got
like
a lot of practical instructions. Yeah, workbook and stuff like that. And, you know, covering people with disabilities.
Mm.
Oh, and that's amazing. I'm gonna get that book, because I just got a book that Lexy recommended to me. And it's
nice. Yeah, that's the book that's like the framework that we use for the anxiety group.
And guess what? I bought 5 of them and I gave them out to people.
For free?
Yeah, gifts.
Nice.
Yeah, gifts.
Look at that. You're like Oprah.
I wish. I'd love a big estate in Montecito. Hey.
Look under your Zafu pillow. You have the book.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, that's a great book. It's a great book.
Well, Dr. Cohen, I mean, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
You're welcome.
And maybe we'll have you back another time. You know, we'll on another subject of course, about in and around freedom, because the first episode that we did, Lexy and I were like, wow, we could just sit here forever and talk about this, because they're all different aspects of freedom, all different areas in your life that we can talk for hours and hours and hours. And talking about freedom from pain, mental pain, is, I mean, I think that's like a foundational thing.
Yeah. And there are other ways to frame it. I'm sure other, you know, speakers will have come from different philosophical angles on it. But this is one popular approach that I'm espousing here. There's a lot going on about it, you know. Well, I guess you'll have Dr. Aronson soon,
Yeah.
and you'll have other good guests, and I'll listen to some of your podcasts.
Oh, we hope so. We hope you at least listen to this one. Well, we're going to say thank you again and let you go and get ready for your beautiful
foliage trip.
Foliage trip. Wait, say the word again. I could never say it.
It's not foliage, it's foliage.
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 Or leaf peeping. A lot of people just
I like that better, leaf peeping.
Yeah, beautiful fall colors and all that. And it's great to get out in nature. See, that's another topic we didn't even get to, forest bathing and communing with nature. Yeah,
well, we can save that for another episode because I think we can probably talk for hours on that too, because I have a lot to say about that. And
nature teaches us a lot about acceptance and just
yes,
accepting what is, because nature has its own time and nobody can control that.
Oh yeah, I like that. Love that.
All right, so take care, and
Dr. Cohen.
Thanks, Dr. C. We'll see you soon.
Stay free, stay peaceful.
I love that. Stay free.
Stay free. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Ricky.
Lexy, that was great.
That was great.
He was great. You were great. I think
you were great too. It was great. It was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm looking forward to just continuing with these podcasts and just bringing all the different philosophies around freedom and all the different areas we can talk about. And I want us to have a job over the next few weeks, and then we'll say goodbye off this podcast. But I want us to find a theme song.
Oh,
I was listening to Bob Marley radio before we got on, and we could just have him jamming in the background the whole time. I think that would be a distraction. You guys would be talking and be like, because I'd be listening to the music. But yeah, I think the redemption song is awesome.
Yeah, maybe at the beginning, like 10 seconds of a song, or maybe at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. So if anyone who's watching this podcast has any ideas and they want to put it in the comments after you follow, like, share, please let us know. I mean, that would be fun to pick and we can like talk about it the first few minutes of the next podcast, like all the recommendations for a song that we got in, and then I'll reach out to the attorneys for whoever song it is and see if it's okay, or maybe we'll just pretend that it's okay and keep going until they catch us.
Oh no. Well, that'll be quite the controversy, and then we can talk about that and try to tie it to
we are not free to use the music we want. We have to pay. Well, thank you, my dear.
Thank you. And yeah,
I guess we'll see you
all next time. Find a way to close it off. We have to find like a way that like something that we do to like close it off.
Yeah, about we do a high five to each other on the screen.
All right,
we're working these things out, gang.
We're modeling imperfection and how it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, we're doing this. We're just doing what we feel like doing, and
we're being free.
We're being free. Yes, we are being free. So I love you.
I love you too.
And thank you so much, Lexy. And thank you all.
All right. Mwah.
All right. Wait, I gotta click the button.